What's going on, my good people? Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCP Euro video. Today, we're going to show you how to replace the front brakes on any vehicle using a basic set of tools, no matter how big or how small it may be. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Most important thing to note when looking at your brake reservoir is the brake fluid level. As your pads wear down, the piston's going to come out more in each caliper, meaning that your brake fluid level is going to decrease. Sometimes if you wear your pads down enough and you keep ignoring that little red light on the dash, a warning light will come on for your brake fluid being too low. So just keep that in mind before you top it off or do a brake job. The first step in any brake job is to jack up the car on an even surface, safely supported by jack stands, and remove the wheel. Even better if you have access to a lift like we do. The next step is going to be to remove the anti-rattle clip. This is going to vary from car to car, but the general idea is going to be the same, requiring some combination of twisting and prying to release the clip. After the anti-rattle clip is removed, most cars will have a brake pad wear sensor that is used to tell you when your pads are getting too low on usable material, usually indicated by a light of some sort on the dashboard. Next, we are going to move to the back of the brake assembly and remove the dust caps for the guide pins. These dust caps are essential in keeping dust and debris out of the guide pin channel, preventing them from seizing up and becoming a real problem to remove. They are usually just two rubber caps that can be easily popped off for access. Note, for a single piece caliper, these dust covers would not exist, as the caliper is mounted onto the knuckle with only two bolts, not four separately like the two-piece design. With the dust caps taken off, we can now remove the guide pins. These are what hold the caliper to the bracket. Sometimes you will need a counter hold to remove guide pins that are located on the caliper carrier itself, often found in GTIs and Minis. When dealing with these type of guide pins, you always want to pop them out and inspect the boots and make sure that there's still grease on them, and if not, you can always clean them up and re-grease them. After removing the guide pins, this will allow you to slide the caliper off the rotor and carrier bracket. It is crucial that you have something to hang the caliper from so you do not hyperextend the brake line, which can result in a brake fluid leak. You can use a specific caliper hanger tool for this. Zip ties or an old bungee cord from the depths of your garage will do the trick too. The key is making sure it is supported safely. Once you slide the caliper off, you'll notice that the bracket will still be left. The bracket is attached separately to the knuckle via two bolts. These bolts are notorious for seizing inside of the knuckle due to the sheer amount of road debris they see. If you go to remove these and you feel like they won't move, a serious treatment of your favorite penetrant or maybe a few cycles of heat will be your friend. This can save you from an hour job turning into a multiple day drilling fiasco. Ask the editor how he knows. Now that we have all the main brake components off, we can remove the brake rotor. These can be held on with a set screw in order to help stabilize it when installing, but not every car will have a set screw. These are often Torx or hex of a small size, notorious for getting stuck. They will sometimes need persuasion with heat or an impact driver. It's important to note that if your car does not have a set screw, that's okay. They're simply there to help you when installing the rotor. They have no effect on performance while driving. If your rotor is giving you trouble coming off, don't be afraid to hit it with a hammer to shock it off the hub. For that, we recommend putting a lug nut back through the rotor to avoid it crashing down on the ground. Watch your toes. When you remove the brake rotor, you will be left seeing the wheel hub assembly in which the brake rotor was resting on. This is usually pretty rusty and dirty just from the thousands of miles of road use and abuse they usually see before the brakes come off again. So it is recommended to clean up the wheel hub surface as best as you can. To do this, you can either use a wire wheel, wire brush, or really any light abrasive method you prefer. The key is not to use something too aggressive, as you do not want to take any material off of the hub, just dirt and debris. The cleaner the mating surface, the easier it will be to remove your rotor for the next brake job. Now that we have cleaned up the surface of the hub, it is recommended to coat the surface of the hub lightly with an anti-seize compound of your choice. Personally, we like to use Liqui Moly ceramic paste. The goal here is simply to cover the two surfaces where the rotor and the hub will meet. Now we can install the new brake rotor. Make sure your hands are clean. Whether you have to wash your hands or swap gloves, do it. Most rotors have a coating on them, and any oils, dirt, or grease can wear away that coating prematurely. Simply place the rotor on the wheel hub just like you took it off, and if you have a set screw, you can install that as well to help you keep the rotor in place. If you do not have a set screw, you can use a wheel lug and screw it in while you move on to reinstall the caliper and carrier. Before we install the caliper and caliper carrier, we want to make sure the carrier is as clean as possible. Usually they will be pretty rusty, so it is recommended to hit it with a wire brush or abrasive of some sort to help knock that rust and dirt off. Once the carrier is cleaned up, you can go ahead and install it with the two bolts. It is recommended to replace the bolts, although it is not necessary. Make sure to reference your car's specific torque specs for the carrier bolts. With the carrier installed, now you can prep the brake caliper for installing the new brake pads. This will usually require a special tool to retract the pistons into the caliper so that you can fit your nice new extra meaty pad into its new home. As your brake pad material wears, the piston extends further. When you go to replace the pads, there will be more material left on the new ones, and they usually will not fit when you go to slide the caliper back on with the pads installed. Retracting the piston before installing the pads will prevent this from happening and allow you to get it done in one shot. Make sure you crack the reservoir for any fluid. Don't forget to use the same anti-seize compound from earlier and coat the ears of the brake pads where they rest on the bracket to avoid any noise while braking. With the caliper piston retracted, you can go ahead and place the inboard pad onto the caliper, then place the caliper onto the carrier assembly and rotor. Once it is on the carrier assembly, you can slide the outboard pad into the caliper. If the whole assembly looks good and secure, you can go ahead and reinstall the guide pins to secure the caliper to the carrier. Make sure to reference your car's specific torque specs for the guide pins. Now we are in the home stretch. It's time to reinstall that anti-rattle clip that we took off at the beginning. Every caliper has a spot for the anti-rattle clip to go. Some are holes, some are notches, but there will always be a spot both on the top and bottom of the caliper where the anti-rattle clip will key into. Using the same twisting and prying motion, reinsert your anti-rattle clip into the same spot that you removed it from. And that's it! You just changed the brakes on your car. The last thing for you to do is obviously put your wheel back on, torque the lug bolts or lug nuts, and go for a test drive. And most importantly, don't forget to pump the brake pedal a few times before driving.
And that, my good people, is going to conclude how to do your brakes on not just these two vehicles, but any vehicle at home. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, or you want to see a video like this done on a different part of the vehicle, maybe an ignition tune-up or a filter change, let us know in the comment box below. And if you like a video like this and you want to find a DIY on your own vehicle, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.